New Zealand secured a spot in the World Cup semi-finals with a 5-wicket win over Sri Lanka, scoring 172 for 5 in 23.2 overs. Devon Conway, Rachin Ravindra, Darren Mitchell, Sean Trent. Trent bowls 3 wickets, restricted Sri Lanka to a 171 runs. Rachin Ravindra set a debut World Cup record with 565 runs, outscoring Johnny Bairstow's 2019 record. Today, South Africa, already in the semis, face Afghanistan at Narendra Modi Stadium. Themba Bavuma's team won 6 of the 8 matches, facing the recent loss to India. Afghanistan, led by Hashmatullah Shahidi, promises a tough match. In the last games, South Africa collapsed against India. Yes, it was a cluster collapse. While Afghanistan's 201-run stand by Glenn Maxwell's shocked everyone. In their only ODI World Cup meeting in 2019, Afghanistan scored 125 runs. Narendra Modi Stadium's 11 pitches fervour. It favours the batsmen, of course. Well, to talk more about today's match and also a little bit about yesterday's match, we have 3 of the esteemed panellists. An Aussie from down under, Paul Dinette, the podcaster, the cricket critic, and joining him is David Brooks, who's based out of London, and it's pretty early in the morning out there, but he's still, the love for cricket helps all the fans and everyone to connect with him, and Tasmin Granger, who's played for Zimbabwe for over 15 years in the international arena. Well, I'm going to start off with Tasmin. Tasmin, what's the latest today that we have here?
Yeah, definitely. So a super interesting game on the cards. South Africa versus Afghanistan. It's going to be a case of, your strongest batting prowess against possibly one of the best spin bowling attacks thus far in the World Cup. And definitely exciting match to look forward to. They've only ever faced each other once in World Cups on the stage, and that happening to be on the winning side of South Africa. But take nothing away from Afghanistan, because they are not the same team they've been at previous World Cups. They've already beaten 3 big giants at this current stage so far in the World Cup, and they just might be looking to make it a 4th.
Well, absolutely. They would just be the party poopers here. Paul, how is the morning looking from Australia? How is it looking for this particular match, considering you guys are secured and you've booked your space in the semi-finals?
Hey, Sunil. It's actually afternoon here in Australia. Lovely sunny day in Sydney, and we can bask in the comfort of knowing that Australia, as you said, is already into the semi-finals. Looking forward to this game. Obviously, I think all neutrals have probably had Afghanistan as a real favourite for them in this tournament. It is a great pity, and I say this with the greatest respect to my Anzac neighbours, New Zealand. It is a pity that New Zealand won last night, because if they had lost and we had this game with Afghanistan having a chance to leapfrog New Zealand, and then Pakistan in their game against England having a chance to do the same,
I'm sure you wouldn't, Paul, I'm sure you wouldn't have said the same if Afghanistan would have won the game against you guys.
Absolutely. When you're in a position of having qualified, you can afford to be a bit magnanimous and look for what's best for the tournament. But when you're desperate to qualify, then parochialism kicks in. I do think, though, it will be very exciting that if Pakistan can beat England by 287 runs, they qualify. That has happened 5 times in the history of one-day cricket, which is about 5,000 games. Most recently, when India beat Sri Lanka the other night. So although everyone's written New Zealand firmly in as the 4th place team, there's a tiny possibility that Pakistan could pull off one of the greatest miracles of all time still, but that's yet to come.
Well, we'll wait for the gentleman who usually wears the Pakistan cap from London, David Brooks. Do you think the miracles can happen, and will it happen tomorrow, considering your allegiance to the green cap? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Hello to everyone. Well, can the miracle happen during the England-Pakistan match? That won't require a miracle for Pakistan to win that one. But as far as today is concerned, statistically, it's going to be a freak if Afghanistan can win by, they need to win by 438 runs or something to get through. But a lot of interest in this, I think, mainly about South Africa's chances of making it a whole way. They have this weakness in terms of chasing. It's partly historical and partly from what we've seen in this World Cup. after their performance against India. So they have to put the Afghans in today. South Africa will have to really try and get back on the horse and show to everyone that they can chase. And so even though they all want to bat first, in the interest of progressing the whole way, I think they should if they win the toss, they should practice chasing and get that, lay the ghost that they can't chase and put that firmly to bed. But that's a risk, isn't it? Because you run the risk of losing the match. So that's the interest for me, is how South Africa used this match to prepare for the challenges ahead.
Right.
Because if they've got any chance of lifting the trophy, they have to demonstrate that they can do it batting second as well as batting first.
Absolutely. To answer your question, we are joined by the former cricketer from South Africa, Mushele, who's also a current coach from Johannesburg. What caution should South Africa take to play Afghanistan today, Mushele?
They have surprised a lot of teams coming into the World Cup. I think having Jonathan Trott as their coach, he's going to be able to play very well as a team has their success. So they obviously do have one or two players that have played around the world, especially Rashid Khan has been fantastic in the World Cup. So their bowling attack is very strong. There's two guys coming into the game with hundreds against Australia, so they've got a lot of confidence, so they're very well drilled side, very well balanced, so I think we should never take them lightly.
Well, we seem to have a little bit of technical problem with Mushele, who's the former South African cricketer. I'll go back to my colleague, Tasmin. What do you make of the situation today?
Yeah, I'm definitely with David on this one. It's going to be interesting to see what South Africa does. Hopefully they win the toss and actually go ahead and have a ball first and chase and probably put down, whatever whispers and murmurs are out there about how badly they're chasing at this current point in time. Not only for the crowd as well, but personally for themselves in terms of the momentum going forward and their confidence as well leading into the semi-finals. It's no guarantee that they're going to win every toss and have a chance to bat. So it'll be good for them to be able to just give themselves the confidence to say that, we got this as well. Whether we're chasing, whether we're batting first, we still got this at the end of the day.
Well, that's an interesting point. We're also joined by South African sports journalist. You'll have to help me with the pronunciation, Sabula Viole. Sabula Viole. Welcome to the show. What are the main strengths of South African team today, Sabula?
Yeah, obviously, I think South Africa have had a pretty decent run at the Cricket World Cup down in India. I think, obviously they came into the World Cup at the back of that 3-2 crucial ODI series win against Australia, which they picked up here in South Africa, coming behind in that series to win it 3-2. So they came into the World Cup high in confidence. They came into the World Cup with a plan. I think Rob Walter has managed to, steer his troops in the right direction. Apart from those two losses against, obviously, India and the Netherlands, I think South Africa played some really decent cricket. I think they've played good cricket at crucial times. If I can highlight, games like the win against England, the win against Pakistan by 1 wicket. I think those matches really, put South Africa in a really good position. And obviously their strengths, they can, bank on, their top six. They can bank on their bowling attack. So it's going to be really crucial to see the team that they select to play against Afghanistan today and see what that team can produce before the semi-final against Australia.
Well, very interesting conversation we were having the other day about the toss. You tell us, how crucial is the toss going to be in today's game? Your assessment.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think obviously the toss is going to be very important in today's game. I think on the South African side, they've been labelled as a side that has failed to, chase big totals at this Cricket World Cup. We know that most of the matches that they have won, they've set big totals and, managed to defend those totals. So I think it's going to be really important today to see whether, if they win the toss, what do they do? Do they choose to bat or bowl first? I think the conditions are also going to play a massive role in today's game, just to see, whether, Themba Bavuma, if he does win the toss, what he decides to do. I think South Africa obviously will want to chase today, just to get over the line and get ready for that semi-final. As I've said, they've been labeled as a team that has failed to chase, and I think today presents an opportunity to do
Right.
exactly that. It's really not a match that they do need to win. They've already qualified for the semi-finals. I think the toss is going to be very important, and I think tough decisions and wise decisions have to be made. And I think if they can today, even if they do lose the toss and if they have to bowl first, I think it shouldn't be a problem, and they should be pretty confident with the bowling attack they have, that they can bowl Afghanistan out and they can chase the total and get ready for that semi-final against Australia.
Well, one last question to you, and before we move on to Paul and David, how the loss to India has affected South Africa's confidence?
I don't think it will dampen the South African spirits in any way, to be quite honest. I think, they would have obviously moved away from that defeat. It was a massive defeat, but also at the same time, they would still be grateful and still be happy that they've made it into the semi-finals. Games like that, you need to just move away quickly from them, take the learning curves and move forward, because who knows, they might meet India again in the final if they do manage to beat Australia in the semi-final. So I think, they would have quickly moved away from that. I think the confidence will still be up there. Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see the team that they put out for Afghanistan today, and just to see how they go about things. But certainly, I don't think it will dampen the spirits in the camp. I think South Africa will still be confident. I think, the focus will be on that semi-final against Australia, even though this match, they'll want to win. But obviously, it's a curtain raiser for that semi-final. But yeah, I think the spirits are pretty high in the Proteas camp. And I'm just excited to see, what they produce today.
Well, Paul, I'd like to go on to you and ask you a very detailed analysis of why is everyone saying that it's a curtain raiser of a final between India and South Africa. Do you think that's a theory that you subscribe to? If not, then how Australia becomes India's final, contender?
Well, I think it's going to be between Australia and New Zealand, surely. No, look, I think that this game, not tonight's game, but the semi-final between South Africa and India, between South Africa and Australia, will be the biggest moment in South Africa's cricket history, because it is a running joke that they have failed at all the crucial stages in every single World Cup that they've played in. And, the comical way that they've lost matches has been, it's got to the point where it is something that needs to happen. So if South Africa can beat Australia in this semi-final, then it will be a massive moment for them in cricket, even if they then go on and lose the final. But if they lose again, lose another semi-final, and eliminated in the semi-final stage once more, the jokes just keep getting longer and stronger.
Well, that's an interesting thing that we have discussed. Right now, we are at our most important part, which is the leading bowlers, the top 10 bowlers, and how their average has been. And I'd request PCR to just hold on to this slide. Very important for us. Dilshan Madhusanga, you've got a team which hasn't performed well, which has got no, other bowlers, help bowlers, spinners, otherwise, but you still have this gentleman, this bowler taking 21 wickets in the 9 overs. Just take us through and we'll go back to David on
Yeah, definitely. So Madhusanga has been brilliant throughout this World Cup, regardless of the fact that he didn't actually take a wicket yesterday.
Right.
That being his second game only this World Cup that he didn't take a wicket.
Yeah.
So he's been super consistent. He's got a best bowling figures of 5 for 80 so far in this World Cup. His economy is 6.70 and he's striking at 22.38.
This is impressive.
So that will definitely tell you that he's been consistent. The fact that he hasn't taken wickets, it's not every single game, and he's taking 2 to 3 every other game.
Well, another interesting inclusion at number 2 is Adam Zampa. Australian, 8 innings, 20 wickets, and he's got best for 4 for 8, Economy is not bad, strike rate is good too. What's your take on this bowler who just failed to take off in the first 2 matches?
Yeah, I was about to say, a lot of people wrote Adam Zampa off at the start of this World Cup because they expected prowess from him. They expected him to come out and just start taking 5-wicket hauls. But big props to him definitely for being able to bounce back as well and just show some character and come back and show that it's not dead because you haven't been okay in the first couple of games. There's still a very high chance that you can come back.
Well, I'd like to go on to Paul. Paul, very quickly, what do you think was the revival? What was the moment where Adam Zampa really revived his game and came back into the World Cup as one of the top leading deadly bowlers?
Oh, I think there's a couple of things. One, he started to recover from the fact that he swam into the wall of a swimming pool, which is it's not something I'm never in danger of doing. I don't do any exercise, but swimming without goggles and not realising he's coming to the end, smashing into the wall. That really, he was playing injured in the first couple of games. But there was a key moment against Sri Lanka where David Warner took a really good catch off his bowling.
Right.
That was the turning point. And since then, he's been absolutely the best bowler in the World Cup. The fact that after those first two terrible matches, he's still coming in as second best wicket taker just shows how valuable he is and how vital he is for Australia. So I'm really looking forward to what he can do. Hopefully, if Australia do get to play India in the final, up against the likes of Jadeja in a head-to-head contest.
Absolutely, head-to-head contest with Jadeja. Let's look at the three Indian bowlers here. Due to the paucity of time, we'll just look at Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah and Ravindra Jadeja. Just when you look at their wickets, you've got 15, 14 and you've got 16 wickets. But more importantly, Shami has played only 4 matches and he's at number 4. Just imagine if he was to play all the matches. But another important aspect here is the economy at 4.3, which is very, very good. But look at the strike rate.
Definitely. I think for me, out of the Indian bowlers, my pick would definitely be Jasprit Bumrah. His economy is sitting at 3.66, and he's currently one of the very most economical bowlers thus far as a seamer in this World Cup. But I'm just going to tell you about someone today that's playing today.
Yes.
That's Marco Jansen. He's currently sitting at 3rd place with 17 wickets, with an economy of 6.41, but he's been the most economical bowler for the South African seam attack in the power play.
Absolutely.
And one thing I'm going to highlight for you today is he needs one more wicket to become one of the highest wicket takers for South Africa in a single edition of the World Cup.
Wow. That's an interesting part. But coming back to Ravindra Jadeja, because Paul just mentioned about the spin attack and the head-to-head with Adam Zampa. Your views?
Definitely. I think it's going to be an interesting game if, Paul happens to be praying to the same gods as Pakistan. He might just get his Australia and India final. And definitely, I think it will be a great contest to see what happens. Because I believe the spinners have been bouncing very well off each other. Whichever first inning spinners come out, discover what the pitch is doing, give more or less an idea to the next team that's batting after them. And it will be interesting to see what happens between the two.
An important name out here is completely inconsequential team, looks like one of the weakest. You've got Bas de Leed from Netherlands. David, how does it feel to see Bas de Leed from Holland at the bottom as the top 10 bowler and not finding any of the well-paid, highly motivated, highly paid English cricketers?
I'm beginning to see a theme developing in your questioning, Sunil. Well, how does it feel? I don't feel anything about that particular statistic, but Tasmin's other statistics are very interesting. And it's good to hear her in such good voice after the... how's your throat? Sounds much better. Marco Jansen. Now, yeah, isn't it interesting that he had such a good tournament, but such a nightmare when facing India? He went round the park. It was, as they say, a bad day at the office. So he'll want to put that behind him today. Lots of interest in this match today. Afghanistan have been one of the teams of the tournament, and they will want to leave the World Cup with everyone, with a great impression on everyone. And I go back to the man I picked out last time, Ibrahim Zadran. What a game he had. It was overshadowed by the heroics of Glenn Maxwell. But Zadran is another of the Afghans who deserve to be in that top, the top performers in this competition. And if he gets a chance again to bat first, where he excels, because he hasn't had to do the keeping first, then that should be very interesting. And a word for Rashid Khan. Okay, he doesn't figure in those particular stats, but he is the talisman of this Afghanistan side. Look at the way he got stuck into the Aussies, Paul. Did you see what he was doing when with Warner in the last game? He reminded Warner that Australia didn't have the guts to play Afghanistan either at home or away. They turned down the opportunity to tour. They turned down the opportunity to play them. We discussed this before on some flimsy principle that Afghanistan doesn't have a women's side. Well, South Africa against Afghanistan, Rashid Khan, the man who really galvanized his team the player on the field has had such passion for
Well,
Afghanistan.
we'll have to interrupt
You'll wanna
David
go out.
here
You'll
because
wanna go
we've got another stat here, which is of the leading batters out here. Rachin Ravindra, what do you think of his inning last night and the entire tournament? What do you think of
I'm
it?
going to keep highlighting the fact that Rachin Ravindra, ahead of this World Cup, was batting at number 6-7, down
And
the
came in as
order.
an off-spinner.
Definitely, and he wasn't the first choice for New Zealand to actually open the batting at this tournament. Thrown into the deep end, he finds himself as the leading run scorer currently right now with New Zealand heading into the semi-finals, most probably based on the insane stats we've mentioned.
Absolutely. Go on to the second part, which is Quinton de Kock, who's going to face today tee-off. Do you think he's going to make another century? The way he's going, I think he's just, it's like a scratch card waiting to be exploded, and it starts from the 3-digit run feast. Your views on him?
Definitely, Quinton de Kock is in great touch, he's in great form. We do know this is his last World Cup as well, so it's all or nothing for him. Every innings is the last innings to him, and literally in the quiet sense
Very
of
important part. There are only 3 batters here who've scored 540 plus runs. At number 3 is Virat Kohli at 543. 550 is Quinton de Kock. Rachin Ravindra is 565, but you've got to look at Rachin has played all his matches in the qualification round. He's at 9. Virat Kohli and Quinton de Kock still have a match to go. Again, David Warner, 446. That's a different thing altogether. But look at the number of sixes Virat Kohli has scored. Only 6, which means he runs fast, he runs hard. Any other important players that you would like to... Oh, one interesting stat. You did get someone at number 8. An Englishman.
Definitely, Dawid Malan, I think he's been the only guy trying to do something out here for England. He's tried innings after innings after innings. But this guy is the funny guy for me. Glenn Maxwell, just sneaking into the top 10 in the last game. He's only got 7 innings. He's got the least amount of innings out of everybody on this board right now. And that 201 innings is definitely something they think about. I think it's something that will actually play on the minds of Afghanistan today.
Absolutely. Incidentally, he scored most number of sixes, tied with
Rohit Sharma.
Absolutely.
So I think it's something that Afghanistan will definitely think about today. They dropped Glenn Maxwell when he was on 33.
Yes.
They dropped him again in the next incident when he was just crossing the 50 mark. Something they want to think about today. You don't want to be dropping the likes of Quinton de Kock. You don't want to be dropping the likes of Henrik Klaassen. So definitely something that I think Afghanistan would want to work on today.
Paul, we've got 2 of the big names out here. Number 4 is David Warner and number 7, Glenn Maxwell. Do you think Glenn Maxwell is the batting version of Mohammad Shami? Didn't get to play much, wasn't given the kind of trust and the respect that he deserved that you mentioned, and suddenly when he gets his chance, he just goes boom. Your views?
Oh, I think that Glenn Maxwell's beloved as a white ball cricketer in Australia. It's just that he hasn't had the chance in the red ball. And the interesting one, and speaking of red ball, is that David Warner is about to retire from red ball cricket. Yet these last few weeks, he's been back to the best form of his career. And I really hope he has a rethink, or that the Australian government steps in and says, mate, we're going to rescind your retirement. We want you back playing for Australia, especially when Australia next tours India in a test series. But yeah, I love Maxwell, I love Warner, 2 of my absolute favourite players.
Absolutely. Who's going to be your favourite team today for the match? Paul, and then we go on to David, and then we wind up the show.
I'll tip South Africa to win today, but to lose in the semi-final to Australia.
Absolutely. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Who's going to be your favourite today?
Well, I'm hoping for a close game today. You'd have to say that South Africa would be favourites, but the toss, all-important toss, who is going to bat first? That's a lot of interest in that. And Quinton de Kock, surely he won't be playing his last game. Surely at the age of 30, he can be talked back into the South Africa fold to extend his career.
So should we take it as South Africa?
I beg your pardon?
Should we take your favourites as South Africa before we move on to Tasmin?
Well, I think it's a chance for South Africa to lay the ghost that they've got to insert Afghanistan today and put up a good performance and chase these runs down. And Paul, it's great to hear that everyone loves Glenn Maxwell, but David Warner as your other favourite player, he's the one we all love to have a go at, isn't
Absolutely.
he? So,
Tasmin, who's your favourite today? And then we wind up our show and thank all our guests for joining us.
So 2 of my favourites actually playing this match. So I'm going to stand on neutral ground and say I'm supporting cricket today. Stats are obviously favouring South Africa, but I'm I'm with them 110%, but I'm still, you know, impressed by what's been going on with Afghanistan, and I'm just going to say I'm supporting cricket today.
Absolutely. The lady who always supports the underdogs is now completely torn between her thoughts and her brain and her heart.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.